address all these awareness that we must have when we use these, or we use, or we produce those types of information within those literacies. And these type of awareness might be something new to us, or might be something that we have done to some extent. Yeah, let's take a look. One thing that Metaliteracy would like to address is this type of interaction that has developed over time when we use this information that we can get online or digitally. This is what I have as my experience as an information consumer. Yeah, as you can see in the timeline, back then, prior to 2010, the way I access and use information were, let's say, manually and then digitally. But these days, when we all start having, or using cell phones, we don't only access and use information, but we also produce information. Now, the gap is between accessing and using, and then producing. Now we know all the terms about hate speech, related to hate speech, hoaxes, etc., etc. Now, those are the phenomena that we all can relate to, and some of us probably are very tired of them, but at the same time, we're probably wondering, like, what is going on? What can we do? What should we do, for example? Yeah, so what is metaliteracy? Metaliteracy would like to promote critical thinking and collaboration, because in this digital world with the technologies that we have, they all allow us to collaborate in this very dynamic ecosystem. It is also a comprehensive framework to participate in social media and online communities. So when we talk about media literacy, we, of course, use them when we interact with others on social media. When we access information, we also use social media to some extent, or perhaps most of the time. Metaliteracy is also about a unified construct that supports the acquisition, the production, and sharing of knowledge. But now this must be underlined: collaborative online communities, meaning that metaliteracy would like to promote cyber citizenship that is healthy, that is supportive, that is enriching. Metaliteracy also challenges traditional skills-based approaches to information literacy, because back then, as I showed earlier, the ways we access and use information are basically skills-based approaches. How to use the manual or the catalog cards in the library, or how to find the right journals that we would like to use, for example. What else? How to use corpus-based information online, or references online. Whereas now, actually, we don't just stop there. We are agents that produce information as well. Now, meta-literacy also recognizes related literacy types. So it's not only going to be about media or digital literacy, but like it can be about any type of literacy. Yeah, and this term is coined by McKay and Jacobson. Now these are the goals, which are pretty much the same. If you can read what is different or new, probably not included in the previous slide is number 2, to understand individual privacy, knowledge integrity, and property rights issues in increasing digital landscapes. But the others are basically mentioned earlier, yeah, to collaborate and share information across a variety of collaborative contexts. Now, speaking of meta-literacy, and if we can draw this concept to education, especially, I would like to share this with you. I don't know whether you have heard this or not. It is known as Kruger-Dunning or Dunning-Kruger effect. Basically, yeah, this is, by the way, drawn from their research, which basically found that those who are unskilled are usually unaware that they are unskilled, or they don't know nothing, or they know very little. And this is also called the double curses or a dual burden. I quote this from Kruger and Dunning themselves. Not only do the unskilled and unaware, not only do they reach erroneous conclusions and make unfortunate choices, but their incompetence robs them of the ability to realize it. Now, in bahasa Indonesia, we have this term, udah sok tahu ngotot lagi gitu ya. Kurang lebih seperti itu. And furthermore, I also would like to share this information or research finding with you regarding the reading abilities or reading scores of students aged 15-year-old in 34 countries, and how they relate to the confidence and also economic conditions or socio-economic status. The study found that students' reading scores were linked to economic conditions, and those of lower achieving students are strongly related to poor calibration accuracy, meaning that if we as educators do not attend to this issue, we will see more and more students fall into these curses. Yeah, and why I say it's triple curses, because not only they are unskilled and unaware, probably they are poor as well. And if they're stuck there, we can sort of guess or predict what their future would be like. So this is, I think this is homework for all of us as educators and also as specifically as English teachers. Therefore, I remember this quote: when an illiterate gets angry, you'll get to understand that calmness is probably a sign of education. And I hope we can kind of, relate this to all those interactions that we saw online on social media platforms, especially. Yeah, now these challenges that I'm going to talk about are reasons why we need to promote meta-literacy in our language classes. First of all, this is what we call as information overload. I think by definition, we all can understand what that means. And we also have what we call as information distortion. Ease of sharing on social media meets where ease of sharing on social media meets poor decision making. Yeah. This is, by the way, I'm not going to refer to the stats because um, these stats refer to studies back in 2012, but the ideas I think still relevant. Yeah. Another issue is, um, or another good reason, reasonable reason why we need to talk about this is now perhaps all of us are doing our classes online. Yeah, we use all different types of digital tools or learning platforms to deliver our materials to teach our students. So this context that we're having now um, even brings us greater reason why we need to talk about meta literacy. And last but not least, this is what I would like to call this as cyber citizenship in crisis, because um, honestly, um, we are now seeing a society, especially in Indonesia, that think or they behave as if hate speech is okay, acceptable, and then I also remember a friend of mine. She's also here. Once shared a study covered in one article in Compass that says that Indonesia is among the top 3 countries with they are very, very harsh when giving comments on social media. Altogether, these are reasons and very solid reasons why we need to start thinking how we can adopt, promote, or advocate metaliteracy in our classes. So I'd like to show you this very briefly, just to show that the concept of metaliteracy proposed by McKee and Jacobson, they proposed these 4 domains into metaliteracy. First is metacognitive, second is cognitive, the third is behavioral, and the fourth is affective. As you can see this on the screen, basically all these 4 domains are necessary in order to bring our students, nurture them to become responsible digital citizens, cyber citizens, and especially accountable producers of information. I'm not sure if you are familiar with the term metacognitive as opposed to cognitive. Metacognitive, if I may briefly explain, is defined as thinking about thinking, meaning in this context, metacognitive refers to the awareness or thinking about the cognitive processes that we have when we learn something. We don't just learn, for example, how to speak in English. We learn how we learn that. We learn those skills. What strategies work, what strategies don't work, etc., etc. And behavioral refers to our actions that support or that can be seen as the actualization of uh, the learning process. Affective refers to emotions, definitely. However, when it comes to language learning, I think I would like to propose two more um, learning domains, and I refer to Oxford's or Rebecca Oxford's the concept here about meta strategies, and um, the these are the two of them. Okay, we've seen cognitive, metacognitive, behavioral, affective. The two others that I think should be included in these domains, especially when we talk about language learning, are motivational, and the other is social. Um, Simply because motivational is very important learning domain when it comes to learning a language, especially a foreign language. Social, well, when social domain, we use language to interact with people. We definitely learn a lot, uh, if not most or all of all of the things that we learn from social interactions from other people. So these two, I think, need to be included here in the discussion of promoting meta literacy. And what are the 7 working principles? Now, I would like to say that this is a very big concept, but I hope what I would like, I will share in a few minutes ahead would be sufficient just to raise the awareness, just like what meta means, right? That these working principles are principles that we can actually adopt in our classrooms. Working principles, here I translate them as strategies. So strategies relate cognitive, metacognitive behavior, and so on. And I abbreviate, I make this abbreviation to help us remember these 7 working principles a lot easier if I just, throw them to you. This is APOMAT plus M square. Yeah, we'll see what they mean. Um, yeah, before we get on to discuss what the 7 principles are, I think this quote is very relevant to our discussion today. This is from Alvin Toffler. He says, the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write. Will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. Now, this is very powerful in my opinion and also my experience. And I hope all of you can also give comments later or even questions related to this. Okay, so what are they? The A here refers to attending to curiosity, questions, and bias. Again, what I'm going to show you is actually part of an endless list of what teachers can do to bring this concept of learning into the class. Yeah, I'm trying not to be very specific as well, but I try to bring them closer to home, to our context as English teachers. Yeah, attending to curiosity, questions, and bias is very important, especially in the first, in the phase when we first access information online. Therefore, it's very important to help our students know how to ask questions. Yeah, we can simply ask them about what they would like to know about the topic. Remember the KWL, but what is more important to that, I think, is the idea of asking skinny to fat questions. Skinny questions refer to questions that that don't require higher order of thinking skills. We can also find the information, very easily online. For example, if you ask what is metaliteracy, you can simply, we all can just Google it and see what definition that might, be really related to the term. But a fact question regarding the same or similar question is, how can we adopt metaliteracy into language learning, for example? So training our students in asking these questions when they first encounter a piece of information, for example, they go online to learn something, is this: ask questions, and also activate their background knowledge. We can ask them also to ask themselves why that information or that question, why it matters to you to know the answers to those questions. Checking implicit biases, important, yeah. And I think in the previous months, Puka in its social media platforms have shared with all of us how to do this in more, let's say, practical manners. For example, how to check whether an information is a hoax or not, and then how to find relevant information about about translation, a correct translation or something. Yeah, so this list that you see on the screen, they're just to help us all see that we can address all these different domains of learning by doing simple things. Yeah. And later we can ask students to plan. Yeah. To plan, for example, decide what to focus on. If they would like to improve their pronunciation, what pronunciation a feature that they would like to focus on. Now that's cognitive. That's related to cognitive. And how they would do that. How they learn, that's behavioral. How do they feel when they learn using particular source of information, let's say from videos from YouTube, in comparison to online dictionaries, yeah, for example. Listing learning goals is also part of the planning here. We can encourage them to focus on short-term goals, or what we call as proximal, rather than long-term goals. Now, this might seem very easy, but sometimes I think I can say this from my experience, we teachers might overlook this process. Planning on how to approach the upcoming tasks and assignments, being aware on how to make the plan is crucial as well. And also planning with whom to do the task, or and to whom to consult when feeling confused, for example. Now, I'm not saying that we students at one point should be able to do all of this, but as teachers, I think we can start thinking about what with this particular lesson objective and the learning context that we have in our class, which one that we need to help our students do well or do better. The next working principle is organizing. Now, organizing is also part or closely related to planning, and they might go hand in hand. Yeah. Hang on. And speaking of accessing information online, these are some of the strategies that I can think of. Of course, you can add more on the list. For example, organizing computer files and notes for easy access. This is what we call digital decluttering, so that our students or even us as teachers, we don't get overwhelmed with all those tons of information that we, download or we access from the internet, including scheduling when to access information and also how long we access the information, because we all know or we all are aware that we can get lost in time when we surf through the internet. Including making an effective project planner collaboratively. This is especially true if we would like our students to work on a project. In the WhatsApp group of CAMSOR alumni, sometimes I see teachers share their students' videos uploaded on YouTube, and he or she would like us to check that out, check the video out, and give some support. Now, if I can reflect on what my own children have been through during this pandemic, is that sometimes teachers just give the assignment without really walking the students through the process consciously. And the results can be just for the sake of fulfilling the assignment, rather than promoting what it means to be accountable producers of information, let alone the quality, a producer that carefully thinks about the quality of the content that they share. Next, principle is monitoring. And this is something that also we tend to overlook. Yeah. For example, checking understanding while accessing and using information found online or in digital formats, simply because it's very easy to access all that information provided online. Now, how do we do this with our with our students? We're monitoring. One question that we can, teach our students to monitor their activities when accessing or using information that they get from websites or online is this: am I on track? Am I on track? Does it serve my learning objective or goal? Am I on track? Again, this is something that I can totally relate. Yeah, sometimes I lost track, and who knows, perhaps, or most probably our students experience the same thing. Monitoring motivation level during learning and also emotions is also very important. Yeah, we can ask later using a journal, for example, asking them how they feel, uh, what they think about doing all this on their own or in group, so that we know whether or not they really find the activities or finding information or using the information is comfortable for them. They know exactly what they're doing. For example, reviewing and revising the plan on hand is also part of the monitoring. Now, this is going to be a little bit different than the next working principle, yeah, which is evaluation. Now, the difference is in monitoring, especially when we are reviewing and revising the plan, this can happen all the way through of the learning process, all the way through when we are accessing the information. So this does not necessarily refer to a particular phase of learning. Yeah. Where now evaluating or reflecting, which is the next principle, is more is about what we can do after all this learning activity or all this project is done. Yeah. For example, deciding whether you have gathered enough information and understanding before going to the next study or project goals. What else? Evaluate responses or feedback given and received. If the project is shared online and students can see feedback from the viewers, they can evaluate them, and also they can we can ask them to relate that evaluation to how they feel about receiving all that feedback, including giving appraisals to themselves and to their teammates for the successful learning outcome, for example. Now, this is also, I think, something that important, and from what I see, at least from my friends and also from my own experience, we have been able to do this, or we can do this, and we have done this for many years. Yeah, but evaluating responses from online community is something that we would like to incorporate in the evaluating and or reflecting phase of the learning process. Last but not least is debugging. Debugging here means that students and also teachers evaluate which strategies used in accessing, using, producing information that need to be revised. Yeah, including using constructive feedback to self and to others. This is like this is like a computer programmer fixing the software, fixing a software or a program, and in order to make it run smoothly next next time it works. That was not actually the last, this is the one. And this is particularly or specifically for teachers, because students cannot do all of those working principles that I talked about earlier successfully or effectively if we teachers do not model them and provide mentoring to our students. Some of you are probably aware of the concept of explicit instructions. I do, we do, you do, for example. Um, if if you're interested, you can Google that online. There are tons and tons of examples on that. I'm not gonna. Too bad this is very short time that we have this afternoon that I kind of discuss this in details. All right, now I know my time is very limited, so I'm just gonna touch on this very briefly. I found this learning platform. I don't know, you guys, could you please write down in the Zoom chat what learning platforms or digital learning tools that you think can be used that can be used for your students to share the information that they produce. Yeah, so this is what I would like, and I think all of us would like to know. Please share. But this afternoon, I'd like to share this particular digital platform. Do you know this, or have you ever used this? Flipgrid. Let me see. Can you give a thumbs up if you know this or you have used this? Right. Flipgrid is a digital platform that can definitely support the sharing of information, but in a more, let's say, conducive environment, because you can throw in a discussion only for your class to answer, and then the student can record themselves using video recorder to give their opinion or answer to the question. Now, this is very good for speaking. And you can also, there's this very attractive, I have to say attractive feature, that is Grid Pals. They can find, your students you can set things up in your account so that your students can find their Grid Pal or pals. This is just like pen pals pen paling that we did in the past using this platform. And this can be easily integrated with Google Classroom as well. Another thing is that you can have, look at this, tons of samples of questions that you can use, for example, Indonesian cultural explorations. This is regarding language arts, etc., etc. If you are, you don't know where to start, for example. Let me get back to this. Yeah. And this is another one, which is called Flipgrid Events, where you and your students can register to follow this event online, and your students and you as well can ask questions live with the speaker, with having the event or giving the event. This is very awesome. I've seen this video. You guys can check this online. And I love the interactions that is made possible through this particular feature.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. So excited you can make it to today's live event. Thank you so much for joining. I see we have people from all around. Wow, George Domino's watching with my dad in England. That is so cool, George Domino's.
Yeah. Anyway, students can also learn how to explain things, how to answer questions, etc., etc. There are tons of things that we as teachers can, incorporate into our learning activities by using that platform. Well, I think I have to come to the end of my presentation. Basically, from what I have shared, and these are also proposed by McKay and Jacobson. These are our roles as meta-literate learners. And what is interesting is this. Our learners can be teachers as well, just like we teachers are learners. We are producer of information. We are collaborators. We are translators because sometimes we need to translate the information that we get and pass it on to our friends. And please go to this link, and you can, again, you can scan or you can simply click the link in the Zoom chat and answer the question there. Right, let me sum it up by this. All these concepts and also 7 working principles of to promote meta literacy at the end would be like a cycle of self-regulated learning, planning, setting goals, use strategies to monitor performance, reflect and adapt. And we, as English teachers, we are not doctors, but we definitely can be brain surgeons, because if we do this as like a routine, we definitely make the brains of our students grow like no other, literally. Okay, so I hope that would be an encouragement for all of us. Thank you all for listening, and now I hope you have some questions that we all can discuss. And don't forget to answer the question on Menti. I'd like to know your answers on that question. Yes, Eka, please.
All right, thank you.
Wow, it's
Ms.
almost
Ina
4.
For the enlightening, okay, explanation about meta literacy and also the 7 working principles of how to promote meta literacy and to encourage, I would say, learners' independence and empowerment. Okay, so we've come to a Q&A. Again, if you have questions, kindly write them down in the comment section, okay? All right, we've got one. It's from Sari Komala Dewi. So she would like to know further about the connection between meta literacy and digital minimalism that people are trying to bring up due to the overload information, which often affects people's behavior and mental health.
Okay. I'm wondering about Sasari's question is, I'm wondering about the connection between meta literacy and digital minimalism that some people are trying to bring up nowadays. Yeah, digital burnout is another term that we, that people also use these days. Now, the phenomenon of digital burnout or digital minimalism is not necessarily related right away to the concept of meta literacy, because I think the purposes are different, yeah, and the motivation behind these two are different as well. Digital minimalism or digital burnout, yeah, as a result of digital burnout, might come from people becoming bored of the information that they find online, especially on social media platforms. That's why that's why they do what they call, or what we call as digital detox. Whereas meta literacy is about again accessing or using or consuming information and then producing information in accountable manners, so that we can contribute to this what we call digital community to enrich them. So it's not just producing information and then throw it out on your social media, for example. Yeah, I think that's what I can say. The connection probably will not be seen directly, but if we can, help ourselves and also our students to produce information that people really need. For example, our students teachers can make a project in which their students can be contributors to Google Maps and provide information, let's say, on restaurants that sell specialties in their region or in their city. That is something that we all can do as teachers. And the information, if it's helpful and reliable, I think it will be appreciated by those who access the information. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Well, I think we have, why don't we actually look at the comments on Padlet?
Yeah, we have the Padlet, right? I almost forgot. Let me share it on the screen with you guys. I know that the time is limited, but let's see if we can find some questions. Let me share it here.
So I think there's actually one interesting comment given in the beginning of your presentation, even before you actually explained to us about the 7 working principles.
Is metaliteracy effective for English students? From what age should we encourage metaliteracy? Is that it? Yeah, what's metaliteracy? I think it has been answered. Is metaliteracy, let me try to answer the second or the first question here. Is metaliteracy effective for English students? Well, this is a yes/no question. The potential is there, definitely. But again, that depends on how we incorporate this concept and apply those working principles in the classrooms. That's, I think, like a bigger question. From what age should we encourage meta literacy? If using Flipgrid, you can start introducing how to respond to disagreement, or what we call as being responsible digital citizen, even studying in elementary school. It can be done, but of course there are more learning goals and also projects that are more complex, that might not be suitable for younger children. Okay, now let's go to
sorry, we have a few questions.
Sure.
Yes. Okay, one is from Alvin Fathur Rahman. Okay. Is being metaliterate means to be free from being biased? Or is it still okay to be biased and metaliterate at the same time, as long as we have a logical explanation behind our bias? Okay.
Well, theoretically, yes. But then again, metaliterate learners, or characteristics of metaliterate learners, sort of depict the ideas of responsible cyber citizens or digital citizens. However, how far they are aware of their implicit bias is something that requires, let's say, a more thoughtful approach. For example, by teacher can do this, meaning uncovering implicit bias by asking student a question. Let's say, have you ever think negatively about, or have you ever see your friend who is from a different religion or cultural background as someone that you don't want to be friend with? And then you can post it on Flipgrid. You can post the question on Flipgrid and let your students answer that question. And from then on, you can have the discussion about implicit bias regarding, let's say, religions or ethnic groups, for example. Yeah.
Okay. We have another question from Adrianus. Do you think we should also consider our students' level of proficiency in language learning?
Does it mean that we, in the context of applying those 7 principles?
Or probably for English learning then in that sense.
Oh, okay. Do you think we should also consider our students' level of proficiency in language learning when we would like to promote metaliteracy? Probably, if I'm not mistaken, that's how I read the question. Well, definitely. But the thing is that the way we, plan our lesson, the way we set the learning goals and make our students aware of the learning goals should be, I'd say, in line with the potential that I was, talking about regarding promoting Metaliteracy. Well, our students, especially in middle schools, they are what we call as digital natives. And English might not be English might not be a language that is totally foreign for them. But of course, in other areas in Indonesia where English is not, where students are not exposed to English that much, we can help them by, providing scaffolding. Questions that we pose should be simple questions that they can, understand and also respond to. I mean, when we talk about possibilities, they're endless. It's our way. It is. I think it is back to us as teachers to make sure that the road that we built through the lesson plan will finally help our students arrive at the point that we want them to arrive at. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure there are more questions, but we're sort of running out of time. So
yes.
Shall we see what has been going on Menti?
Yeah, I was sharing it a little bit earlier. Yeah, what learners' characteristics can be promoted through embedding the 7 working principles. I do agree with you. We can, by applying these 7 working principles, we can help our students to be critical learners. Yeah, they can be learners who have curiosity in learning, which is good, especially when our students are in, let's say, in senior high school. As we all have known, when we were little, we asked questions a lot, but the more we grow, the older we get, the fewer questions we ask. And I think we as teachers or our education should, help or encourage our students to love asking questions, no matter or regardless, what their age is. But I do agree with you, yeah. Mm-hmm. Thank you guys for sharing.
All right, okay. I think we're actually almost at the end of our session, okay? So the 7 working principles, shortened as ALPHAMET plus M squared, yes? Okay, hopefully this will give we here, teachers especially, to think through again when we start to plan our lessons or even design assignments, and hopefully what we get today about the self-regulated learning cycle, okay, in which if learners actually are directed towards this, they somehow can sustain and, I mean, be more independent learners, okay? And in a way, it will, of course, help them to reach the learning objectives a lot easier. All right, so